All right. Hello, hello. It says we are live, but I'm going to do the thing I always do and vamp for a second to make sure that we're actually live. And anybody, we got some people already waiting and watching here. So if you can let me know in the comments, if you can hear me and see me okay and see all of us okay, I'll wait for that until we actually get this thing underway. But, you know, there's that dreaded lag between when we're talking and when it actually shows up on YouTube that just makes us all very nervous. But I can see us on the screen now, so that's a good start.
Awesome.
And hopefully, I know Michelle was having some power issues today, so hopefully we keep power this whole time. But if you guys see any technical difficulties, believe me, we're working on it.
Yeah, there's nothing like sitting at your desk and all of a sudden the whole thing goes dark and you're like, oh no, I have a live stream later.
Yeah. It's never on the day when you don't have anything to do, but we never have nothing to do, so that kind of makes sense.
True, yeah.
Excellent. All right, well, we'll get started here. So I'm glad everybody's here today, and if you're watching the replay, I appreciate you tuning in for this. I actually heard Michelle talking about WordPress Accessibility Day on another podcast and said, I got to reach out to her so we can talk about this. I have questions I want to ask about it, and she was willing to do that and brought along June for this conversation too. They are both organizers for this event, so I'm excited to have all their input on this so we can learn about it. I guess before we get everything kicked off, I'm going to give you both the opportunity to introduce yourself, and I'll start with June. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and about how you're helping out with the WP Accessibility Day this year?
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. My name is June. I'm a creative strategist for my own agency, Back Pocket Ace. I do custom SOPs and efficient workflows. So this is... I got into WordPress Accessibility Day last year. Was my first year into WordPress world, actually. And so when I happened upon it, it was this light bulb moment for me where I thought to myself, well, as you're building SOPs and workflows, you want it to be as accessible as possible. And so it's kind of a merge of two ideas into one. So that's where I became involved into WPAD. So that's my involvement.
That's amazing. I love it. Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And Michelle, for anybody who might live on the other side of the moon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Michelle Frechette. My day job, I am the Director of Community Engagement at Stellar WP. I also am Executive Director over at Poststatus. So I do a lot in the WordPress community, and I have a few podcasts of my own. But I was so excited when Amber and Bet came to me and said, hey, we would love to have you be part of the organizing team for WordPress Accessibility Day, and came in as the marketing lead for that. But I have to say, June has been like the most right-hand person ever, because she's I may be helping with a lot of the PR and things like that, but she's in the weeds getting everything done every day. So appreciate her so much. But this event, it's like, who doesn't want to help when it's helping so many people? And Absolutely. So WP Accessibility Day is just, it's freaking awesome for sure.
That's the tagline right there. That's all we need.
Freaking to know. Awesome. That's right.
Awesome.
Well, we will jump into all the details on the event and get the full lowdown on all that. But first, I thought we'd just kind of talk about the importance of accessibility today. I mean, I feel like when I first started my business 7-8 years ago, that's not a word you heard a whole lot of, although there were still people that needed websites built with accessibility in mind. It just wasn't something our group and community and the agency space was talking about a whole lot. And today that has changed very much. And June, you mentioned talking about SOPs, keeping accessibility in mind there. So, today in 2024, how are you looking at accessibility as far as needing that being a big part of your agency and the kind of work you do?
Well, let's see. Let's reframe it a little bit. When you're creating SOPs and you're making workflows, it can happen in two different ways. It can happen either on a website where you have a client journey that you build for them, or it can be a user manual or a PDF that you manage, that you create and then let them take it over. So having that accessible is allowing people who are on your team and who potentially in the future will be on your team a way to have the method to be successful independently. So that I think everybody, one way or another, want to be prepared for the unknown. And so if you can create that pathway for them to be successful, it's definitely empowers people. So
Absolutely, and it's huge. And unfortunately, I think so many of these accessibility needs get overlooked by everybody, right? And so we need advocates in this space. And Michelle, you've been a huge advocate for all kinds of things in WordPress and accessibility. So why don't you kind of give us your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I had, the idea of web accessibility, like you said, 7 or 8 years ago wasn't even something that kind of was on my radar. But the way I think about it is, for those of you people who know me know that I use mobility devices. So like when I'm at a WordCamp, you're going to see me on my motorized scooter getting around. If I were to approach different places, which does happen, where there's no ramp, where there's no curb cuts, where there's no elevator, I can't access that. And that is what a lot of people will experience coming to your website if they have different disabilities and accommodation needs. So if your website is not playing nice with screen readers, then anybody who's blind or low vision has that same experience. They cannot access what you're trying to share with them. If I can't get into your building, I can't shop at your stores, I can't eat at your restaurant. And that has been my experience in the past. And so when I could kind of took the experience of web accessibility and applied what it must feel like when I experience physical accessibility issues, it just made sense that we really do need to make things more accessible. And and like I say, at the very least, do it because it's good SEO and it will increase your sales numbers. But do it for the right reasons, which is you want everything that you have to say on the web or to sell on the web or to share on the web to be accessible to all human beings who are visiting your website.
Amen to that. I know I've definitely been guilty of this. Like we see the world through our own lens, right? So we visit the website, and if I don't use a screen reader, it's really easy for me to forget that some other people might be using a screen reader and what that experience must be like. And I know one of my first like real eye-opening moments is attending some of Amber Hines' accessibility meetups and seeing people actually go through websites just using a screen reader. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought of all these little things, And so now I'll pop open a website that I'm developing and turn on the screen reader, and I always find something that I wouldn't have caught otherwise. So that idea of putting yourself in other people's shoes is huge for it too.
And to add on to that, so like I actually attended a conference recently where I could get in the building just fine. There were panels on the doors, there were curb cuts. There was a second floor. That's where the green room was, but there was no elevator. So as a speaker, I couldn't access the green room. So I could actually get there and I could experience most of it, but not all of it. Screen reader is only part of an accessibility experience. So is there motion on your website? Is there sound that's blaring out at your website? Are the colors contrasting in a way that somebody who has color issues cannot see and discern what's happening on your website? So just the screen reader part, I just want to make sure that everybody who's listening understands that's just a very small part. I mean, it's a large part. It is a large part, but it's not all of what accessibility on the web means.
Yeah, you can't imagine how deep that rabbit hole goes sometimes. It's easy to get lost in there. There's lots of stuff to keep up with, but it's that also means that it's such a huge opportunity, right? For any web agency who's spending more time focusing on accessibility, they're going to be that much further ahead of the pack. And like you mentioned a minute ago, good for SEO and good for all that. I hate to lead with things like that because we do want to be doing these things for the right reasons and the moral reasons and all that. But at the same time, you're just going to have so much more of a business opportunity if you're focusing on these things, because like we said, 7 years ago, this wasn't talked about a whole lot. Now we're doing a webinar on it, and you're on a webinar, tour right now talking about it. So it's definitely become more and more important.
Yeah. 10 years ago, we didn't worry about mobility or mobile accessibility on a website. Right? There was no mobile until we had smartphones, and that has become part of our vernacular. So this just is a natural progression of making sure that we're thinking about all of the different ways that our sites are viewed and experienced, not just viewed, but experienced by others.
That's right. So, obviously, a big part of this is for us as web developers and agencies is, I think the biggest hurdle is the education, right? You have to learn what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. And most importantly to me, like, why do we need to do it this way? Because it's when I can connect all those things and it's like, oh, okay, now I know why this is so important and why I need to do it. So that's, to me, what makes something like WP WordPress Accessibility Day such an exciting thing. So June, why don't you tell us a little bit about, what is this event?
Okay, well, we are a 24-hour global virtual event. That's the first thing that you have to understand. So it's we have about 24 or 25 sessions this year. And we can say it now that the schedule has been published. So if you go to our site, you can see the schedule of speakers. The sessions are out, and we're trying to be as accessible as possible in our event. So there are ASL translators, there are live captions, and then post-event, there's going to be transcripts and translations available. So those are near and dear to our heart, and there's been a lot of effort to put that out this year. So what else can I say about WPAD? Just come. You'll learn so much, and there's a lot of interesting talk from beginners to advanced and to legal effects of the regulations, and so definitely you're going to take something away from it.
Absolutely. And I know you said this is your first year doing it. Michelle, how long have you been involved in this?
This is my first year also.
Okay, awesome.
I've attended in the past, but this is my first year helping organize the event.
Excellent. Okay, well, what all do you know about like the origin? I believe this is the third year, right?
This is the fourth year. It began in 2020. Yeah.
Okay, so what can you tell me anything about like the origin or how this came about?
I can.
Okay.
I can. So
we want to talk over each other.
So in 2020, they started, and it was from the WordPress core accessibility team, and then eventually evolved into a standalone event. It's all volunteer based. We are all volunteers on here, and we appreciate every single person doing their job in small parts, in large parts, in any ways that they can. Let's see. So the mission is really to make website accessibility more approachable and widely understood within the WordPress community. So that's where it really came from.
I use the word demystifying a lot when I talk about underrepresentation, because to people who are, I'm going to pick on you for a second, Kyle, white men, right?
Oh man, we got a lot. We got a lot to pick on.
I love people, right? I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being a white man, for sure, but you lack the experience of what it means to be an underrepresented person if you don't have disabilities, if you are not, an ethnic minority, those kinds of things. And so we often talk about demystifying those experiences, because to be a disabled person, to be an ethnic minority, to be a woman, often means that you all are like, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Right. And so for me, I'm not an ethnic minority. I have to learn those things too. Right. So if you are not part of a subgroup of underrepresented people, there's a lot of like, I don't understand. I don't know. And so we talk about demystifying some of those things. Like, it's not, you don't have to be a disabled person. You don't have to be somebody who's neurodivergent to understand how to make your website accessible. But if you don't know, it still feels like this giant mystery, right? Like, how do we do those kinds of things? And while a day like WP Accessibility Day isn't going to take you through the entire step, it's not a course, if you will, walking you through the entire thing. It's going to give you all these different topics and ideas and things, food for thought, and introduce you to concepts that you'll want to learn even more deeply. So if we talk about alt text on images, for example, it's great. So you think, okay, I have to put alt text on that image. Well, what is good alt text? What makes good alt text? And so, we'll explain some of those things, but then for you to go through and understand how to do it on your website is something that you'll have to take and do a little bit further. And so demystifying some of those things, making them not as hard as you might think they are, I think is really super important. Like, when I really thought about retrofitting a website for accessibility, it's much harder to go back and retrofit a website for accessibility than to build a website with accessibility in mind. Just like it was hard for us back in the day to make a website good for mobile devices. If it hadn't been already, we had to retrofit, we had to rebuild. And so some of that comes into play. When you think about, gosh, I have all these websites that are not accessible. What do I need to do? Start with square one,
Right.
Work your way through it. It's not impossible and it's not difficult. It is a little time consuming sometimes when you think about doing those things. But if you incorporate them going forward into everything that you do, it will become second nature and won't feel like this gargantuan task.
Yep. You eat the elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yes, you do.
So you had mentioned earlier that the schedule is now out. I put the link into the chat.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to grab that, they can go to, it's 2024.wpaccessibility.day. You can go there and start checking that out. But I guess whoever wants to jump in on this one first, tell us a little bit about some of the speakers or some of the sessions that are coming up. I would love to know, some specifics on what we can look forward to.
Absolutely. June, what's your favorite one on the schedule, or what are you excited to hear?
I'm actually looking forward to the WCAG Trendy or Not. I think I got the name wrong, but it's something to that effect. But I hear a lot of people talk about, well, if you make it accessible, then it's, hate this word, ugly,
Oh, right.
And that is not the case. And I'm so happy to see that is going to be discussed and talked about. And just highlight the fact that, being accessible doesn't mean that it looks basic.
Right.
To use the young kids' words, basic,
It's mid.
It's mid. I'm mid. I'm basic too, so it's okay.
But it doesn't have to be that way. And to be compliant with the WCAG regulations, it can have, pizzazz. And so I'm looking forward to that one the best.
I mean, I think that's evidenced by the website for this event. It's beautiful. It's a really creative, fun, bright, colorful. It does all of those things you'd want your website to do that you might be worried accessibility might suppress, but it doesn't do that. You just have to kind of reframe things.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that question. I'm glad you're here to help interview because I'm terrible at it. What session are you most looking forward to, Michelle?
So as a writer, I'm really looking forward to practical text accessibility tips for content creators. And if you look at the description of that talk, it even says, so you're creating words. You wouldn't think you need to be accessible, right? Like words should automatically be accessible. But there's more to it than just putting words on paper. And especially when you come with things like links, like the click here link is never a good thing to click here, right? And we learn about those kinds of things. But also inclusive language is part of writing. Yoast has free in their free version now an inclusive language toggle that you can turn on that I got to experience before they even put it out to the general public because they wanted some feedback. And so we were able to add some more words and things like that. Inclusive language can include everybody, or it can make people feel like they're not part of the audience you're writing to. And it never feels good to have that door shut in your face. And so I'm really looking forward to hearing everything that she has to say, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot that I'm going to learn from that session.
I think it just gave me some ammunition for my kids when they start saying all these Gen Z words. I'm like, listen, this is not inclusive language.
Not
I don't know what you're talking about right now.
What is Riz? I don't know.
Yeah, no idea. I'm sure I'm full of it though.
Yeah.
So I imagine the people that are watching this and the people in the admin bar community, we have some people who just started on their WordPress journey in the last few months, and we have some people that have been doing this since the dawn of the internet, essentially. So there's a huge range of people that I'm sure this event caters to as well. So June, could you speak a little bit on what people can expect to take away from the event, maybe from the novice to the more advanced user?
Well, with only 1 year under my belt, I think the one thing that I took away from last year is that accessibility is not such a daunting task. A step at a time, and you can do it. So for this year, I think that going into it, look over the schedule and find a couple of them that kind of more speak to you, and hopefully you can find something that is more into your own niche, if you have a niche. So definitely, I think that for beginners, there is a spot for you, and even just a basic understanding of the legal aspects of it. Our keynote speaker is Lainey Feingold, and she's going to talk about the regulation and all the changing rules that is out there. So just to have that understanding as you're building your business, as you're building a new business, is important. So.
Absolutely. And laws are changing everywhere, state by state, but they're also changing overseas. I believe it's Ireland already is inputting not only huge fines for inaccessible websites, but jail time as well. And the European Union is also rolling something out next year similar to that. So web accessibility should be taken very seriously. We mandate that any new building, like I said, has curb cuts, has the ability to have doors open, things like that. We should also be mandating that everybody has access to the web. So I'm excited to hear her talk too. I also wanted to just kind of piggyback on what June was saying, that there's all kinds of talks that are applicable to whoever you are in your journey, whether it's a web journey, a WordPress journey, whatever it is. So we have talks for developers, we have talks for bloggers, we have talks for content creators and people who are putting graphics and things on websites. And it's a 24-hour event. So we're not expecting anybody to sit there and watch their screen for 24 hours. So if you pick and choose the ones that are more applicable to you, we are very happy with that. Also, that being said, a 24-hour event and staying up for 24 hours, that's not healthy. We don't want you to do that. If there's a talk happening at some point when you're like, I need to be asleep at that time, they're all being recorded, and we will be able to, they won't be out the same day, but we will slice and dice them, as I say, and put them out as individual talks. And as June said earlier, they will have transcripts and translations over time. Those things take a little bit of time, because we have human beings that are doing those for us. We're not relying on AI and other techniques to get those done. And so, so if there's something that you want to hear and you just absolutely have a meeting, you're going to be sleeping, you're having dinner with your kids, we will have that available to you after the fact. It might just be a couple weeks wait.
Fair enough. Totally fair. And I will say, if you can attend some live, there is something different about attending it when it's live and happening versus watching the replay. So although you can't stay there and probably shouldn't for 24 hours, I would encourage you to find at least one of them to get in there and attend live. Now,
because you can always ask questions in the chats too, right? So you can have your questions answered, which is nice.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, Michelle, you've been to quite a few events, virtual and in person. So I would consider you a pro at going to WordPress events. So as somebody that's attending, how do you think they can gear up to get the most out of this event and really walk away with the most value?
Yeah, so I think definitely look through all 24 hours of the schedule and make sure that anything that you want to see live, you put on your calendar so that you have that reminder, you have the link to go watch it. All of that is available so that you know, oh gosh, I want to hear that talk. It's starting in 5 minutes. We'll put it out on socials, but if you're not paying attention to social at the time, you still might miss it. So plan ahead with the things that you want to see. And then buy a t-shirt. We have a swag store, and that will make you feel like you're part of it too. If you get your t-shirt in advance, Yuna's modeling it. Mine's in the wash, but I wore orange in solidarity. But focus, it's a feature, not a bug. It's a cute shirt. You should get a shirt. But that will also give you that feeling of inclusion and belonging, and that you've got a little bit of swag to go with the event also. But hydrate. Plan your bathroom breaks, because it's a long day if you want to watch more than one talk, but definitely plan ahead and make sure that you are actively scheduling on your calendar those talks that you want to hear live.
Absolutely. Love it. And I'm not a tax expert, but I would probably write off buying that shirt as like a tax write-off, maybe. I don't know. It seems like a business expense to me.
And I'm not a tax expert either, but I'd say it's worth a try.
No doubt. Give it a shot. What's the harm there? I do want to mention ahead of time to people that if you're watching this live and you have specific questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. I'm watching the chat right now, and we'll save a few minutes at the end of this to answer any of those questions we can. But one thing we haven't talked about yet are all the details. So date, price, registration, where can people go to find out more? June, why don't you give us some of those details?
Okay, so our dates are October 9th and 10th. It starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time or 1500 UTC, people who are on UTC. Registration is open now, and registration price is free. This is all free. Okay.
The t-shirts aren't free. The t-shirts you have to buy.
Yes. Sorry, clarification. The t-shirt, Cost money, yes. Unless there's a few ways you can get a free t-shirt. If you volunteer, you do get a free t-shirt. Okay, you can donate and get a free t-shirt. Okay, so there's ways to do that. 2024.accessibility wpaccessibility.day is where you can go and get registered. Okay.
Excellent. And I put that up on the screen, but I will also make sure that that's plastered everywhere so everybody can get to it.
Thank you.
You mentioned volunteers. I know I signed up to be only a micro sponsor, but a sponsor nonetheless.
We don't say only.
Oh,
we don't say only.
No,
We appreciate every mic. I'm a micro sponsor too, and I, am voluntary. So it's not only, we appreciate every penny.
Well, are you guys still looking for volunteers, sponsorships, all those kinds of things?
Absolutely. We have the call for volunteers, I think, is open on the website. Jude, am I right on that one?
It is.
Yes, it's open on the website right now.
Yeah. We're also looking for translators. So if you speak another language, especially French, Spanish, German, I think Italian is another one that we're looking for. I can't remember the Asian languages that we're looking for, but we are also doing that. Let's see, volunteers for that. We are also looking for sponsors. Micro-sponsor is open up until the time of registration, until the close of registration. So you can do that. And, Kyle, you say that you're but micro-sponsorship is only $150. And in today's world, that's less than a week of groceries for some people. And it is, you do get, if you strategically plan it out, you do get a lot of bang for your buck on $150. With a micro level sponsorship, you have a logo with a link that goes back to your website. Okay, you can take that website and take that link and make it a landing page, and that way you can get your lead captures. Okay, now a bronze level, our deadline is September 10th, so that is fast approaching, but that is another opportunity. And with the bronze level, you can be you have your logo and you also have a landing page. So there's a huge opportunities to get your own agency's information and services out there. And this gives you this tie-in to this commitment that your agency has a mission to promote and educate accessibility in the way that they do their work. So. Yeah.
I talk to a lot of agencies that aren't sure what to post on social media. They run out of ideas of things to post. Here you go. Become a sponsor, and now you can promote that you're sponsoring this event and how great this event is.
Exactly.
Makes your agency look great. I just gave you at least a month's worth of social posts right there.
Exactly. And Isla did put in the chat that the call for volunteers is closed. It's closed for most of our volunteer activities, but the form is open because we are still looking for people who might be interested in translating. So if you have some special skills, go ahead and fill out that form, and we'll let you know if we have a need for what those are.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, I want to ask everybody again if they have any questions here. Mark had asked if any of the sessions will be recorded, and I know y'all talked about that. So why don't you let us know again how those recordings and the replays are going to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you were interested in seeing what's happened in the past, those recordings are already out there on our YouTube channel. So you can kind of see how those are. I've actually been recording this week all the intros for after we, divide them up into the individual sessions. That takes a lot of work because I don't know how to speak a lot of other languages. So I've been doing a lot of research. For example, I didn't know that it wasn't pronounced Alice. Her name is Alicia because she's Italian. So yeah, so there's a lot that goes into this. But those are all going to be put out on our YouTube channel after the event so that you can partake of all of those activities afterwards, learn from everybody that we've had as a presentation sessions for. So that'll all be there.
Absolutely. And so one last question that I had before, and I sorry, I didn't put this on my notes, so I'm going to spring it on everybody here. I imagine the goal of this event is to get the information out to the people, right? So I would love to know, like, what are y'all's goals for this event? Like overarching, what are the goals for this event, and how can us as the WordPress community help support you guys in those goals?
I would say first, just so everybody knows, it is a charitable organization. So WP Accessibility Day is not putting money in anybody's pockets. All the money that we try to raise is simply to be able to continue to put on this event, which includes the fact that we pay our speakers a stipend and have all those T-shirts. Believe it or not, those T-shirts, they're not free for us to give away either. So all of those things come with expenses, as well as the technology that we use and things like that. So all the money that we raise is put right back into the organization so that we can fulfill our mission of making the web a more accessible place. So the number one thing that anybody that attends or even thinks about attending WP Accessibility Day can do to help us is look at your websites and make them more accessible. If that's the only message you take away, look at your websites and make them more accessible. Start today, put some image descriptions, put some alt text, check your links, do those things that are like, low-hanging fruit for your website as far as accessibility goes. That is the number one message that we want to get out there. If you want to help us, yes, of course, we take donations and we take sponsorships, but share our social media messages as well. Invite people to attend. The most important thing for us is we don't want to try to reach a certain number of attendees just so we can say, wow, we get so many attendees. We want to reach those attendees for the purpose of making the web a more accessible place for everybody.
Love it. Well said.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll start wrapping up here. If nobody else in the live viewing audience has any more questions, but before I cut us all off, is there anything that I missed in this that you want to make sure that we get across to everyone? I don't want to leave anything out here.
Attend. Just attend.
Yeah. Exactly. Attend. Visit the website, sign up. Even if you know you can't attend live, register so that you get the emails that talk about when everything else comes out, when those sessions are available to view afterwards. You get on our mailing list, you get a lot of good information, and we don't spam. It's not a lot of information that we're sending out, but we do send out the most important things for you.
Okay. And if donating is too difficult, financially, you see our post out there, give us a like, give us a share, and that spreads the news.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And Kyle, thank you so much for inviting us on the show. When you reached out, it was really a happy moment to be able to come and share. So really appreciate you having us today.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, if I can help in a little way of promoting a little bit, I'm glad to do that. And I'll do my best to make sure everybody sees this video. So the more views we get on this, the more views we get on WP Accessibility Day, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect.
Win-win-win. Yeah. Well, excellent. I really appreciate y'all doing this and telling us a little bit more about this. Best of luck. I know you guys are out there working really hard to make this this entire event a success. The team, I'm sure, is very lucky to have both of you, and I feel very lucky to have you on this call today. So like I told everybody earlier, there's links here in the chat. When we finish this call, I'm going to put all the links to everything we talked about inside this video description. So if you miss anything, check back in an hour or so, and I'll have all that stuff in there so you're not missing anything.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
Thanks,
well, wish you guys both best of luck with this event, and I will absolutely see you there.
I'll see you in October.
All right. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.